What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday to you. Unplanned live stream as usual. If you follow this content, you already know how it works over here. It's like I just pop up and just start talking, and that's kind of what I do. And whoever wants to jump in, you are more than welcome. So, I haven't did a live stream in a couple of probably about a week now. I just don't like to feel compelled to just jump on and just talk about everything that's going on in the world because a lot of the stuff that goes on in the world is quite frankly beyond any of our control at the end of the day. I think that there's a lot of powers that are working both in the flesh and the spirit. And, they obviously are adamant about their agendas. And so we common folks, we just sit and endure, right? That's what we do. We keep our prayers up if you're a believer and you just endure and you just deal with it. And, until the Lord tells you that you just got to go to war with some things. And for me, I feel like this is a fading system of things. This is Satan's world. And so what will be, right? But again, it's all a divine comedy to me. So, here we are. So I was going to do a video a couple of days ago about Elon's little hand gesture, right? I saw a lot of people on the mic, different opinions about his Roman salute, right? As he was giving his heart to the world. And the first thing I did, I always love to go, like, I look at the audience reaction. I'm like, where's the audience reaction, right? And you see, like, the white people, right? The white guys that, as they're panning through, right? And, they just kind of do a uncomfortable laugh. There was a couple of people in the audience. They were just like, where are you going with this? Right? It was like, you could tell that even the white folks in the crowd were a little confused as to what he was doing there because obviously when you pour your heart out to people or give your heart to people, it usually doesn't go like that. You know what I mean? But you had a lot of the conservative media pundits. I think the most foolish ones that look weird, defending that were the black ones, the black conservatives defending Elon's little salute. Now that was just so comical. They just look like monkeys to me. But anyways, the black liberals, they were, obviously upset about it. They were going to make a way big deal about it, but it was just seeing the black conservatives try to make light of it and even the white conservatives, it was, they were uncomfortably shilling for Elon in that moment. And the only thing I could think about is where the is his handler? Like, where's Elon's handler, right? Where is this guy's handler? What's going on? You just gonna have to pay attention. But I'm like, where the hell is his handler? Because this dude did not do this once. He did it twice. Like, and it's like, bro. And now, you have like the conservatives. This was like really funny to me. You have the conservatives giving people a lesson in the Nazi salute versus the Roman salute. I'm just like, oh my God, I love these people. I love these people. This is just, it's all funny to me, right? This is the world of politics that we lived in. But, off that, who knows what was going on through little Elon's mind when he was, and I say little Elon, the man is almost 50, but people want to just shill for him like he's just like an 11-year-old, slightly autistic little boy or something like that. But off of that, right, a lot of people are kind of blaming his possible condition on his misappropriation of his hand gestures, if you will. But, again, at the end of the day, I think that Elon is smart enough to know that there is a segment of Trump's base who have very, how should we say, Aryan type mindsets, right? He knows that those people exist, and he probably is one of them. And the reason why I truly do believe that Elon is one of those Aryan type of white folks, and I say Aryan type of white folks, meaning that not all white folks have these mindsets. Not all of them are eugenicists, right, in their mindsets of creating their pure race or maintaining their pure race. But I truly do believe that, Elon is not as, other race people friendly as he tries to lead on. And I don't care if he was friends with Kanye West, right? You know, I think that Elon is one of those white looking people who are quite scorned by South Africa, apartheid. I think that black looking people in South Africa has really offended white looking people like Elon. And, I could kind of tell, I think it was a couple of months ago, Elon was, posting his disgust because I guess there was this South African black church, and I guess they were singing or chanting something about deaf to, I guess, the white folks over there, right? The colonizers over there. And Elon did not like that very much, right? And so I think that, you know, Elon is just one of them type of folks, right? He romanticizes, it seems, the Roman Empire. The Romans were very wicked people. Um, I think they gave birth to a very wicked religion that was fused and corrupted the Abrahamic faith, right? And this guy romanticizes these types of people. So anybody that romanticizes the Romans is a devil in my mindset. And, anything they do is not very shocking. So he can heil the Romans or give his heart, give his heart like I would give my heart like this, but apparently, if you're a Roman sympathizing racist type of person, you give your heart like this. But apparently, there's a number of Democrats who have also given their heart like that too. So I guess many are raising the, objection. You guys can't be too upset. You guys Heil Hitler as well. Oh, not that guy, but they do that kind of open heart thing too. So I guess it's like a political trend, or who knows. But anyways, Trump has started his mass deportation of different human liabilities that have come into America. And what's interesting is that there are a number of Hispanic individuals, there are a number of immigrants who are upset with Black people, Black Americans. They're like, you guys were slaves. You guys should know what it's like to be, deal with injustice. And it's like, you freaking came into our country illegally. There is no justice for you. There is no justice for you. The only just thing for us to do is deport you back to your country, because in some countries you die. And that is just the truth of the matter. You break into a country, some countries illegally, that could be your very life, And that's how barbaric certain people are. At least we give you the luxury of hanging out in America for a while, feasting, sort of taking advantage of our taxpayers for a while, in between administrations that, may have less common sense, right? And I think that's where a lot of people are like, yes, at least with Trump back in the office, we can minimize these human liabilities, right? And it's not about even the dilution of races at this point in America. I think that, if you ask me, during the eugenics era of America, is this hate for immigrants about, race? I would say yes, right? The United States did in the 1920s halt immigration because obviously the white race in this nation were afraid. They were afraid of being replaced by all these non-white looking people. So we did halt mass immigration. We didn't start it again until like 40 years after eugenics, right? But, I think that this is a different scenario. The United States is not the economic powerhouse that we used to be. We can't afford to have human liabilities. And the only rational reason to bring in mass immigrants is to have a new class of slaves. And so that's really what it boils down to. Both Democrats and Republicans, they're looking for cheap labor so that they don't have to think about paying Americans the wages that they would believe that they are worth. So both Democrats and Republicans have enabled this mass immigration issues. And you're talking about southern border states, these Republican governors obviously don't have as much power, or they don't exercise as much power as they could in a situation like that, because they've enabled it. They have sort of showboated to the public, but they have enabled it because they know that they benefit from it as well. So they did put all of that immigration shit on the liberals, but at the end of the day, they were enabling it. A spade is a spade, guys. A spade is a spade. Yep. But now you got these, immigrants who are facing possible deportations. They're fearful, and obviously misery loves company. And they're like, well, Black Americans, you're next. And it's just like, what? What are you talking about again? Well, you're next. If they deport us, they're going to deport you. So we have to band together, against these people who are deporting us. And it's like, I'm going to need you not to put your shit on me or my people, right? And that's just the bottom line. Foundational Black Americans, we are not on a chopping block for deportation. I don't care what the liberal side wants to project or any of that stuff. I do not believe that foundational Black Americans are at any risk of being deported to any other nation that is not of their foundation. We are Americans. Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, are Americans, and we have been Americans since the founding of this nation, damn near. So, outside of slavery, obviously, we had to get our humanity in this nation, right? But at the same damn time, we're not the same as the immigrants. So I don't know why they are just asking Black people to jump on board. Most Black people voted for Kamala Harris. They did not vote for Donald Trump. So, there's that. More Black people voted for Trump this time around, but he still didn't get the dominant Black vote. And an overwhelming amount of Hispanics voted for Donald Trump. So therefore, our Hispanic, immigrant friends from afar who have migrated here, you need to check your own people. Don't be looking at Black people for nothing, because that was your own people, right, who got this administration in as well. So there's that. Don't put your shit on us, right? Talk to y'all people, Hispanic people. They ain't have shit to do with Black people. Y'all know that y'all overwhelmingly, among the two races, voted for Trump. Black people did not do that, okay? Black people did not do that, right? And like I said, Trump got more Black votes this time around, but we definitely didn't get his ass elected, right? The Hispanics did. And I'm not trying to play the blame game, but don't y'all come over here looking at us talking about coalitions and stuff like that, because I think a lot of Black people are tired of that shit. We're like, we ain't coalescing with no fucking body. All of y'all traitors. All of y'all been traitors to our people in little colorful, slick ways. So now we're just banding together and just not coalescing with no bullshit that don't got nothing to do with us. And this deportation shit, Ain't got nothing to do with us. Let me go to the comments. Hang on, let me go pull it up on YouTube. But, most of these people who have been brought into this nation or who have been allowed to come into this nation, they're going to serve a purpose in America. They will. They will. You know, mass immigration is a great opportunity for the military industrial complex. It's a great opportunity for the medical field because now they got some human trials and they don't have to use the prisoners who are technically Americans on the books, So it's like there's so many evil things that mass immigration can do to help improve American society. So don't worry, a lot of these people are not going to go nowhere, right? They might go somewhere, maybe to a lab, maybe to a military operations facility, but they'll be purposed. They will be purposed. They will earn their keep. Same over here in Europe. Instead of governing within their means, they'd rather import boatloads of new consumers to prop up the economy. And I don't even think they're trying to get new consumers. They're trying to get new slaves, right? If you're trying to literally revision a new infrastructure worldwide and that is part of these climate junkies fantasies and all these World Economic Forum people's fantasies, their little wet dreams of controlling people, right? If you're trying to engineer a future like that, you better believe you're going to have to take notes from every other nation who has had to rebuild and reconstruct, and that is get slaves to do it. And cheap labor is always, going to be your best labor when they're coming from another country and they're scared to go back to their own. They will work their asses off. And these people know this. So, unfortunately, the West, they thrive on having slaves. Every single aspect of their glory is on the backs of slaves. And they want to take credit for being so great in mind. It's like you didn't build shit. Probably used some peasant architect and his job and then recoined it with some rich guy so he could feel relevant. But anyways, that is just to say that immigration is just a big transatlantic slave trade without the trading 2.0. It's like now these people are just going to be willful participants in their slavery because they want to be here, right? And if you want to be here, you got to be a slave first. And even after you get integrated here, you're still going to be a slave because we're all kind of slaves to the system, right? We're all slaves to the system, right? They have designed the system to maintain our slavery in the system, right? They got their little creative taxes, right, to short squeeze us out of having any type of idea of property and ownership, right? A lot of people don't realize that they are happy because they don't own anything, right? People kept thinking Charles Schwab or Klaus Schwab is, omnis because he said you will own nothing and you will be happy. It's like, that's actually the reality of most people today. You don't own anything because if you don't pay taxes on the shit that you own, guess who owns your shit? And that's just word 100. So that is that, right? But what's else on my radar? Blah. Let me see. I didn't want this to be a long one, but yeah, the Elon thing was interesting to me. Like I said, like where are his handlers? Maybe he needs one of those Nova H1s earpieces that Kamala had to help him to not do such things again. And thank you to all the conservatives who gave us that lesson on the Roman salute versus the Nazi salute. Regardless, the Romans were wicked ass people. All right. Good evening, Rose Gardens. I see you and I see you. Be strong. Roosevelt, what's going on, brother? I have been on some history. I've been diving into history, you guys. And, one of the things that I've been just interested in the last couple of months is the um, war between Jerusalem and Rome, right? And I've also been very interested in the 12 tribes of Judah, right? And, again, everybody can have their opinion about everything, right? But, I think that there's some people running around the world with a true identity crisis. And I don't know if these people are aware that their ancestors have hijacked an identity, or if their ancestors truly are who they say that they are. I think the one thing that we all need to realize is that when we're getting into Roman ruled Jerusalem, we are not dealing with all 12 tribes of Israel at that point in history, okay? When you really want to break it down, there were 10 lost tribes that went off into the wind during the Assyrian and the Babylonian conquerings, right? And they were dispersed, right? And I think that it is very likely that those Israelites, right? Some may have later identified themselves as Jews, right? I think that it's very possible that those Israelites, by nation mixing, or we would call it race mixing, it is possible that some of them are white looking. And so that's why, when I hear different commentary, about blacks being the real Jews versus white, these people who say that they are the more Germanic descent, Slavic descent people, when I hear people say that, it's like, it's very possible that some of these people who claim that they are could be from a lost tribe. But I think the more center point is that the New Testament, and even after Babylon, we're not focused on any other tribes but Judah and Benjamin. And in fact, Judah and Benjamin, they were more of the tribes that stayed closer in line with the God of their forefathers. And no, they were not perfect. But I think it's, important to note that when we're thinking about the war of Jerusalem and Rome, right, we are not talking about white looking Jews, European looking Jews, sons of Japheth Jews, or Esau Jews. We are talking about the sons of Shem, who are melanated, darker people. Okay. And so, in just diving into a lot of this history, I try to be reasonable with my assessment. I don't agree with some of, individuals' perspective from the Hebrew Israelites group, right? But I do believe that it is possible. There was just too much nation mixing for black people to say that, we are the only descendants of Israelites. I feel like it's fair for Black Americans and even Caribbeans to say that we are the descendants of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. We are descendants of Israelites, and those are our tribes, right? We cannot account for the other tribes and what they could possibly look like. But I don't believe that the Romans were fighting white looking Jews. I don't believe that. I think that they were fighting more melanated Jews. And I think when you really think about the tribe that really stood down 10 toes down for Israel in the ancient days, it was the tribe of Judah. They were the lions. They were about that shit. They were with the shits all the time. So that is indicative. Their behavior, their spirit, everything about the tribe of Judah is a reflection of the spirit of Black Americans specifically. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of, you know, interest in making Black people just being associated with Africa for a reason. Because I do think that if you kind of dig down to some of those tribes and what they think, you will see that there are tribes of Israel um, all over the place. You know, you have Lemdas, right? You have the Ethiopians. You know, these are true descendants of ancient Israel. And I get irritated because it's like, I don't understand how the world can continue to accept these lies and this notion of supremacy. Um, and even down to, you know, the Romans and the Catholic Church, how they could perpetuate a white looking Jesus to all of those people. And nobody questioned it because they need to cleave onto an idea of a fleshly supremacy versus truth. Semites are from the Middle East or Africa. They are not European descent type of people. The Bible is not about white people. And it's unfortunate that certain people of faith believe that because they need to have an idea about themselves that was perpetuated by just, you know, millennials of Satanism and, you know, the conquering mindset. The only time you really think about white looking races being mentioned in the Bible is as being conquerors, not people or children of God. And they definitely were not the chosen children of God. And if you want to be real specific, even among the 12 tribes of Judah, I'm sorry, the 12 tribes of Israel, it was Judah that was the more desirable of all the tribes. And of all of Jacob's sons, Judah was the most accountable. He was the most reasonable. And so his descendants were just a reflection of that. And that's why Jesus actually came. He was a descendant from the tribe of Judah, not Reuben, not Levi, right? Judah. So I've been doing a lot of my homework, you know, just relearning the scriptures, relearning people and groups and ancestries in the world. And, you know, the devil is a liar. He's a liar. And he's lied to Aryan type of people. And when you think about their mindsets of their supremacy, I mean, you think about the Romans, right? You think about the Romans, they saw themselves as deities and they wanted people to worship them as deities. And, you know, they managed to corrupt the Abrahamic faith to the point where they got people worshiping fleshly men as deities. And it's unfortunate, you know, that so many people have been led astray by such apostasy. But, you know, the God of Abraham will be coming. Yahusha the King will be coming to put judgment upon all the nations. And I look forward to that day. I look forward to that day. I really do. So, you know, keep your prayers up. I had a really good Sabbath this weekend. I just dove into the Word. You dive into the Word, you dive into history, you understand the correlation. I was reading some very interesting things about Flavius Josephus, and I have long referred to the writings of Josephus. I mean, since I was a teenager, Josephus has always been a secular account that, you know, I was told to refer to in connection with biblical writings. But you read about the history of people, and you realize that we've been told that people are things that they're not, right? So I've always known Flavius Josephus to be a Jewish historian, right? I've always known him to be a Jewish historian. But then I was reading his family history, and I'm like, so he was actually a family member of Herod the Great. And Herod the Great was not a Jew. He was a Roman convert. He was a Roman convert. Herod actually converted to the notion of Judaism, right, to gain the respect and love of the people, during Roman occupation, but they still wasn't checking for him. He, built the temple, and it was all great. And they was like, okay, thank you, but we still fuck you, Herod. We don't want you. We don't want the Romans, right? But Flavius Josephus was an ancestor or relative of Herod, and Herod was a Roman. And so Josephus was not a Hebrew. Josephus was a Roman. But he grew up, obviously, in that area, right, during Roman rule, right? So he only knew Jerusalem under Roman rule, right? Because that's when he was born. So it's interesting because Josephus is known as a traitor to the Jewish people. And a lot of that was because of his Roman ties. And, some of his accounts are even questionable. He tried to make himself look good, but ultimately, I think Flavius Josephus was a traitor. But I do believe that some of his accounts of what was going on during that Jerusalem Rome war were accurate. It was just coming from the lens of a coward. You have to read between the lines, a lot, when it comes to Josephus, because he was a self-preservationist to me. But anyways, that's what I've been into in terms of my studying and stuff, getting ready to get into the week. Let me go back to the chat really quickly. But I like to study the sensitive stuff. I don't think that people have anything to lose exploring the real truth. You know what I mean? Just, truth is what it is. Human history is what it is, And I can imagine, because I analyze this whole thing, it's like, well, okay, what if this is true, right? Everything boils down to Satan. Everything goes back to Satan. And what I felt like is, if everything is being, quote, whitewashed in history, and history is really written by individuals who have been empowered by Satan to manipulate the truth, what would be like the purpose, right, of certain individuals or certain aspects of history being whitewashed? Well, if the Bible was about darker complected people, you're talking to prophets and everything. These are melanated people. The Bible is not about white people, as the Romans will have the white people believe, right? Why would Satan need to do that? Why would Satan need to make white people the chosen preferable race? Because they're his chosen people. And I'm not saying this to say that white people are devils or anything like that, or all white people are devils, because again, even Jesus said that there's a Gentile branch, right? And these are people who are pure in faith. They converted to the faith. They are Israel as well, if they're in covenant, right? But I think that Satan chose the white race because the Bible is all about non white people. It's not about the sons or the descendants of Japheth, which are the Europeans. It's about the descendants of Shem, the melanated people. And it makes sense why Satan would corrupt history like this. But then again, it is black people's fault as well because it's not our fault, the descendants, but it is our ancestors' fault. And that's why I am not a black person that believes in ancestral worship, right? I believe that we should learn from the errors of our ancestors and make penance. And I do believe that black Americans are the descendants of the tribe of Judah, and we have been stripped of our identity, our customs, and ideas for a reason. And I think that of all the black looking people, I think that the blacks from Africa, I think there was a special interest in these people. And it's really because of their bloodlines and where they descend from. They needed to be eradicated because you can't perpetuate a lie if you have descendants floating around that actually proves that you are not who you say you are. So, like, I don't believe that Ashkenazi Jews or Sephardic Jews, I don't believe that they even if they are descendants of Israel, I believe that they are intermingled individuals from the 10 tribes. They are not from the tribe of Judah and they're not from the tribes of Benjamin. And those are the tribes that we are centered on, especially when we're getting down to the New Testament and after Babylon, because it was the tribes of Benjamin and Judah that actually returned back home. So, and even all of them did not return back home. So there were even remnants of Benjamin and Judah in Babylon that remained. So it's very interesting, the history. And I think that, when you think about the race mixing of Israel, ancient Israel, they weren't homogenous. And they, even if they had some level of hegemony, that really ended with Solomon. Because Solomon, when he started marrying all those women for political alliances and games, he was actually diluting the bloodlines of David with all of these foreigners. He was tainting it. So Solomon had seed he was an international pimp, literally. Like, Solomon did not die in the favor of the God of his forefathers. He actually betrayed his father and his God. When he was absorbing all of these foreign women and corrupting Israel. And so, obviously Solomon's temple was destroyed because it was defiled. There was a lot of paganism around the temple, and it was corrupted. Same way with the Second Temple. By the time the Romans were ruling, I think that there were individuals in Israel that they really were trying to fight off the Roman paganism, much like the Jews were fighting, or the Hebrews were fighting off the Greeks and trying to resist their influence. There was a lot of Hebrews that did not want to be Hellenized. And I think that they dealt with a test of their faith during the Grecian and the Roman empires because, those they just made their cultures just look appealing. And I think a lot of them just had some ideological shifts, maybe. But that is just to say, by the time the Romans, had subdued Israel and they were ruling, Israel was not a holy place. And the reason why the Romans were able to subdue the Jews or the Hebrews that remained was because their God was not with that land. I mean, even Messiah prophesied that the temple would be destroyed. And the Romans gave them the business, and they did it. They took care of it. And if you let so called Josephus tell it, the Romans didn't want to destroy the second temple. That wasn't really their thing because the Romans were like sociopaths and they like to have trophies and memorabilia, and there were like certain areas like the temple was, they wanted that to still be a center of of relevance. But I think just the prolonged war and just the back and forth, supposedly the writings of Josephus says that one of the Roman soldiers were inspired by a supernatural force to throw a torch into the temple, but it could have been their god because I think outside of the Romans, a lot of the infighting and practices on the land, it wasn't a holy land. So it hasn't been a holy land for a long time. So I don't know why people keep lying. But, you got to make your money. You got to have some tourism attraction. Let me see. Judah was the northern tribe. No, Judah was the southern kingdom of Israel. The northern tribes were comprised of the other 10 tribes. The northern kingdom was comprised of the other 10 tribes. The southern kingdom was comprised of Judah and Benjamin. The darker skin, the more divine the DNA. I truly do believe that. And I mean, I actually saw this guy who supposedly studied genes. He was talking about the Black American or the Black gene is actually different. They always try to make us inferior. Every single study. To be honest, I've seen more. I think I go by just everyday data. Like I see more of this than that. So therefore, when I see data that says, "Oh, Black people have the higher this, the higher that," I'm like, "Well, how come I don't ever see no Black people?" In this instance, I see more, non-Black people like autism. Let them tell it. Black people have a higher autism rate than, non-Black people, but, I don't think that's true. Thailand has its own very successful strategy of resisting colonialism. Good for them. I mean, I think that a lot of these nations, I think colonization is definitely, it still exists. That's obvious by what we see in Israel right now. But I just, it's not as world, I don't feel like it's as prevalent as it was back in ancient times. But I will say that Black people don't have a history. Black descent people do not have a history of colonizing. That's not our thing. God's chosen people wouldn't have that on their mind. Satan's chosen people would. And so that kind of tells you who are the children of the God of the system of things because they rule the world. Look at what they look like. And that will tell you, are these descendants of the God of Israel, the God of Abraham? I think not. I think not. Their practices, their mindsets, they're not of God. They're not of the true God. They're of Satan. So yeah, good checking in with you too. Be strong. I didn't mean to stay on very long. I was just catching up with you guys because I haven't been on in a couple of days. But y'all know how I be. It's like I come in when I come in, but I don't live on the internet. I don't want to live on the internet. I like to unplug from the internet because this is Satan's playground. But I do think that you can share ideas and just kind of have different conversations that matter, get people to thinking about things that they've never thought about before, get them to researching. I think the purpose of my channel is just I want people to prove me wrong. Like if I trigger you when I say something or you don't agree with something I said, get your ass out there, research for yourself and prove me wrong. All right? Pick up a book, right? Knowledge is power. And, draw your conclusions. I don't profess to be any type of scholar. I'm just a regular person. And I think regular people can understand the word of God far more than a scholar who's probably trying to look at it from a biased lens to justify some idealism. So I say, hey, pick up your Bible, pick up some secular books, and understand the succession of mankind's history, because it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating when you read the Bible and then you go back and you look at mankind's history and you look at some of the references and the people in the Bible, and you're like, oh, I've read about Xerxes. I was reading about Xerxes in school, and then you happen to read the Bible, you're like, oh, Xerxes' name is in the Bible, and Artaxerxes and all of these people, and you realize there's correlation there, that the Bible is the most accurate account of mankind's history. It just really is, from very pivotal points in at least world domination. We see mankind's history. You're talking about Daniel's prophecy, and he sees a statue, and this statue is a depiction of the Babylonian Empire. And then he sees the Medo Persian Empire. Then he sees the Greek Empire. Then he sees the Roman Empire. Then he sees the fragmented Anglo Saxon, dual, and Jute world powers fragmented, because they are the 10 crowns. They are monarchical, right? And then we go into the fragments of the second beast, which is ultimately America and Israel. And Satan dwells in this nation. We are the bastard of Babylon. So we're all living in the belly of the beast, and, prayers up that, like Lot and his family, when the time comes, you better listen to the Lord and don't look behind. That's all I can say. But anyways, you guys, let me get my butt out of here. If you are somebody who is trying to dig into Bible truths, you want to talk about Bible truths, definitely hit the subscribe button. I kind of like to connect the dots, with what's happening in the world today, with, sort of biblical prophecy, what has happened in history, because there is nothing new under the sun. A lot of these, the thing is about the fallen angels is, and a lot of people, they're scared to talk about them, but I'm not. They're so fucking dumb. They are dumb. Like, I mean, if you're gonna be on the side of anybody, you're gonna be on the side of the heavenly hosts, because they're the smart ones, right? You gotta understand, the angels that fell, most of them were the lesser angels, meaning that they were like the equivalent to the eugenics morons, right? So of course they were just lemmings, right? They were gonna follow Lucifer because obviously they're dumb. They were dumber than him, right? You always get people dumber than you to follow you in your cause. It's like your modern day activists, right? Most of these people are losers or weirdos in their lives, and the only thing that they have is activism, right? The devil like, he doesn't do anything new, right? There's nothing new under this sun. So just mankind, how governments play out. A lot of people didn't like it when I said it, but I stand firm on it. Donald Trump played the Constantine card. He played the Constantine card through and through. He played the Constantine card. Now, let's see how it all pans out. But Trump definitely played Christians like Constantine played the Christians back in Rome, and it was all for political gain. It was all for political power. He really didn't give a fuck about their beliefs like that, right? Because they were pagans. It was like, whatever, dude. I just need to get your vote. So look, Jesus, I saw a cross, guys. We're going to establish, like, this is it. Constantine was a freaking devil. He was a son of perdition. And he established a satanic model of the Abrahamic faith, in which millions of people worship one man like they would Jesus Christ. It's an abomination. It is an abomination. Shame on the Catholics. They obviously aren't the religious scholars that they claim to be, because they want so much damn power. We get it. Religion is power. Religion is power. That is why I stay away from organized religions. Anyways, you guys, in the look, where we at? I was mopping my garage 2 weeks ago. As the floor was drying, it left an image of Osiris from the water. I snapped a pic. It seemed like it had a war bag on the back. Wow, that's interesting. You speak facts. I have read a lot and traveled the world. It only led me to the truth about myself and people. Amen to that. I have always had this weird inclination to study people. Like, even just as a child, sometimes I would be in the car and I would just be thinking, where are they going? What are they thinking? What is their life like? It was always just this weird curiosity of just other human beings. And you observe people enough, you realize that they're textbook situations to somebody else. One person is a textbook situation to something you've seen before, or someone that you've seen before, and you just have to be paying attention and really catalog the inclinations of people to really understand what I'm talking about. But I read people very, very well. I read people very well. I could probably be the best psychologist ever. I even said that, but like, I'd be the psychologist, like I said, my sessions would be very quick. I wouldn't be making money off of the same client, because I would have this thing called get your ass right in 3 sessions. Like, because I really don't want to hang out with your little broken ass. I'm trying to fix you and get you going. And the therapist today will make you believe that you need to be with them forever, right? Because a lot of them are fucked up. And, obviously they're living or solving their issues, or at least getting their validation vicariously through somebody else. But for me, it would be straight up get your ass right in 3 sessions, right? We're going to identify, right? Our goal is reconciliation. We ain't about to hold on, clutch on to any trauma. We gonna talk about not weaponizing trauma, because that's what a lot of people like to do. They like to clutch on to it so that they can weaponize it, and we don't do that shit. So get your ass right in 3 sessions is about reconciliation. So I probably wouldn't be a good therapist, because I'd be trying to get you in and out. Um, I compare fallen angels to zookeepers who got intimate with the animals, and they actually did get intimate with the animals. That's where we got, like, you talked about the book of Enoch. I was actually just reading some excerpts in Enoch. I actually have it in my bedroom. But they weren't just having sex with humans, they were having sex with animals. This is where we get the dinosaurs and the dragons. These were real animals on Earth. That's why we see the fossils of the dinosaurs. They're never going to put up the fossils of the humans, and if they do, it's going to be in some weird display where we don't correlate that underneath this model is a real actual Nephilim human bone, right? Because they don't want to substantiate the Bible. They don't want to substantiate the book of Enoch. But the dinosaur fossils definitely substantiate the book of Enoch. And they will have people believe that it was prehistoric time and the ice age came and wiped all the dinosaurs away instead of the Great Flood. And it's just bullshit. And again, all of these scholars, right? And they are all coordinated to hide the truth, you know? And so you're right. They were banging the animals. They got intimate with the humans and the animals. So they were just some freaky little zookeepers, Ghetto Planet. And what's good, Ghetto Planet? Good to see you, my friend. I know I just be popping up on us, on y'all, but you know how it be. I'd be doing things. That's why they got locked up, because humans would lock up those zookeepers too. Cover gods being intimate with animals as well. That's why Enoch and Vedas is interesting. I don't know about Vedas, but I do definitely believe and trust in what I've read in the book of Enoch. I believe that the book of Enoch is the first book of the Bible. I think that obviously it was omitted because they don't want to focus on, when you look at the Bible, for the most part you're talking about mankind's history, mankind's creation. It really doesn't center on the spiritual sons. And obviously the clergymen don't want people to center on the spiritual sons because they lose their power, right? Like, because if they knew that, there were these angelic forces and they had these angelic roles, a reasonable person would be like, why would God put this person, this fleshly human, before us for us to worship and Lord and access through him, right? A reasonable person when there's a hierarchy of things even under Christ or Messiah. So, I think that Enoch is the first book of Bible. Enoch is the first person, that we read about in the ancient text that actually walked with God, meaning he was labeled a friend of God. And when you really think about how Enoch walked with God, it was like he really was real to him, where he saw all the things that were going on the earth, and Enoch was just going to God. He was going to his God. And I think from there, it was like, of all the lawlessness on the earth, there's true righteousness in Enoch. And if you understand the descendants of Enoch, we get Noah. Noah is a descendant of Enoch. That was his great great grandfather. And Methuselah was also a descendant of Enoch. And, these are people who were righteous. And so, I think that the Most High started off very early isolating the hearts of certain individuals and making sure that individuals in their bloodlines, fulfill his purpose. So in this instance of Enoch, right? Enoch got us to Noah, right? Noah was basically the father of the new generations of humanity after the Great Reset or the Great Flood. So our God knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He's in charge. I have not read the Epic of Gilgamesh yet. And that's, I'm really meticulous about certain writings, just because some of these writings can be forgeries, and a lot of these forgeries, they kind of are a little too sensational. They don't really have direct correlation to God's overall purpose. And so I don't like take a lot of stock in there. But I believe Noah's name was, I'll check it out. But again, you got to think about it like this. Like, even the Greeks, they took aspects of the Bible, right? And they recreated, ideas from the Bible or the text or the stories that were being floated around. Because remember, the book of Enoch was floating around for ages, before the Greeks and all that, right? So, I mean, these nations and civilizations, they were sort of kind of taking ideas from each other, if you will, in many degrees. Like, the Roman gods were literally a ripoff of the Greek and the Egyptian gods. Like, the Romans were like the least original people, right? And, again, what made them really spectacular is the structures that they were building at the cost of many human lives, and it's so funny. Like, if people who call themselves Jews go and just are adamant, I'm gonna go visit the Roman Colosseum, it's like, you don't know your fucking history, because it was the looting of the Second Temple, the destruction of the Second Temple, the souvenirs from the Second Temple that actually funded the Colosseum. It funded the Colosseum, right? That's a point in history that a lot of people don't know. That the Romans, what is his name? Titus Vespasian, right? He used what they looted from the Second Temple to build their Colosseum, right? They really did celebrate. The Romans were celebrating the defeat of the people who called themselves descendants of Abraham. They were celebrating that, right? The Romans did not like the Hebrews or the Jews. And I say that very liberally. But anyways, you guys, I'm gonna check. I've heard of that Ghetto Planet, but I'll check it out. Like I said, I'm really particular about some of the writings that I read and some of the stories I entertain, because some of them, they are laced with some aspect of spiritual truth, but then there's like this satanic weird undertone that you really don't see the correlation between this account and God's overall purpose. Like the book of Tobit, I read that and I'm just like, I'm gonna have to give this one the side eye. It was a side eye for me. The book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch so far are the more credible books in the Apocrypha that I've considered so far. Some of those other books I would say may not be authentic to anything that was inspired by the God of Abraham. And I think that's one of the things we have to, as Bible students, I wouldn't call us scholars, but as Bible students, we definitely want to be cautious when we're reading certain things that may seem like it's inspired, right? Always bring it back to the questions of how does this play into God's overall purpose? What is the overall messaging behind this? What is the mysticism behind certain things? Because, I think the bigger, like I have so many questions about how certain accounts in the Bible are, relayed and even, developed into belief systems. And they all just give paganism to me. And none of these man made doctrines, some of them are even supported in the Bible text. Like the hellfire doctrine, you read all through the ancient texts, and there's just not any connection to the fate of fleshly humans going to a hell. But the fate of fallen angels, like when I read the accounts, the only entities that I read that are doomed to an eternal fire are fallen angels or disobedient angels. And even the reference to Sheol is not reference for humans. It's almost as if the demons, through their mythology and all that stuff, they really convince human beings that the place of eternal fire was for them, and it's not. It's for the fallen sons, the spiritual sons. Psalms, what is it, 119, I forgot the verse, but it says, his spirit goes out, he goes back to his ground, and in that day his thoughts do perish. The reality of death for fleshly sons or fleshly men is just that. It is a unconscious state. It is a sleep-like state. You are not aware. You have no more remembrance. You're in an unconscious state. You are in a sleep-like state until God tells you to wake up in the resurrection, if that is your fate. But that is just to say that, so many doctrines have been just slung around and people are believing it, and it's just not substantiated by the Bible. They're just pipe dreams for obedience, that were created by apostates, who claim to speak on God's behalf. And that is wrong. I am inspired by the word of God, but I do not, I pray to God, but I don't have just this channel of communications. God has never told me anything, right? God has never told me anything. He has inspired me to find answers, but He has never, ever, I have never heard His voice. He has never prophesied to me. I have entreated Him for knowledge, and I have found answers relatively quickly. He does work pretty fast. But that's my way of communicating is prayer. You know what I mean? I had to tell my little sister because she was talking about, oh, I manifested this, I manifested that. And I'm like, and she's like, and I got everything I wanted. And I was like, and how'd it work out? Like, you're complicated right now. The devil, manifestations are prayers to the devil. Manifestations are prayers to the devil. You manifest what you want, and the devil will give it to you. But be careful. I always say, be careful what you wish for, right? Because there's always a caveat with the devil, right? He's going to manifest the perfect man or the perfect woman based off of your specification, and you're going to be getting a demon. I don't want to reincarnate. I hope we have a choice in the process. I don't like Earth. You know, I believe in the resurrection. I believe that, you know, people are going to be perfected in the image of God once the earth is cleansed. Right now, you know, unfortunately, it's just evil and chaos on the earth. And so we're waiting for the judgments of the nations. That's what we're waiting for. The judgments upon the nations. And, you know, we'll see. Did you hear Byron Donalds call Trump daddy? Some of the Republicans are calling Trump daddy. Like, what is that about? Like, I'm telling you, this is some Constantine shit. You know, they are Romanizing this man. For real. But anyways, you guys, it's over an hour. Thanks so much for checking in. To those of you who have checked in, keep your prayers up. Keep your prayers up. We definitely can dig more into, you said I visited the Colosseum, didn't know that at the time. You didn't know that the Colosseum, yeah, if you look it up, Vespasian, the emperor, right? After his son Titus destroyed Jerusalem, just obliterated it. The Romans just really had no patience with their revolt anymore. They're like, just kill them all. But after that, yeah, they looted the temple, what was left of it, because obviously it was destroyed. And if you look at the Ark of Titus, it shows all the little memorabilia that they got from the second temple, and those some of those artifacts that they were able to sack from the second temple was used to fund the Colosseum. So that's why I'm like, you know, a Jew that really knows their history wouldn't even covet going to the Roman Colosseum because, you know. Still don't want eternal life. The BS will return. It's a cycle. Who knows? I think, you know what it is? I think about what God's real purpose was for people, and I think the closest that his purpose was for us was probably very similar to maybe like a farmer. I think farmers are probably the closest to God of all the humans on the earth, right? Because they're closer to the land, they're tilling the land, they're actually operating as God intended. So to me, I think farmers are probably the closest to God of all of most human beings, right? Because really we were intended to procreate and till the land, fill the earth, subdue it. right? We weren't supposed to have governments. We weren't supposed to have people, controlling and taxing us. These structures were not what God wanted for mankind. Mankind, chose to have these structures, and it has destroyed humanity. A lot of these structures, these power structures. And so I think that, God never intended for us to have government. He never intended for us to have any type of human rulership outside of the free will of ourselves under governance of a divine law. Like, I think that's what God intended for human beings. And I think that farmers, to me, when I think about like what everybody, most people that I know, they want to live, they want to have a homestead, they want to have land, they want to grow their own food. Like, they're literally coveting the very reality that I feel like the Most High intended for humans to have, just to be one with the land, enjoy the fruits of your labor, procreate, create generations of people, and just repeat that cycle. But unfortunately, you know, we had other plans. So here we are. Here we are as human beings. But mad props to our farmers out there. Mad props to the farmers out there. Everybody give them some love. I'm going to give them a heart. Hearts to the farmers, because you guys are literally like, you're closer to God than most people. Especially if you're a believer, you're closer to God than most people. So shout out to our farmers. All right, you guys, humans got too smart, corruptible, and it became an issue. So God wanted most of us wiped out originally. If you're talking about the days of Noah, I would agree with that. I mean, but you're talking about in the days of Noah, humans got corrupted because of fallen angels. Right? You had watchers who were supposed to be teachers. They were supposed to teach us, right? And really how things worked. Like, they were supposed to teach us how to till the land, how all of the things we were supposed to learn, like the secrets of the universe as we were to progress as a race, those things would have been revealed to us. But what they did was they rapidly gave humans information. And it's like cramming a bunch of information into a child's head, and it's planting the seeds of all this curiosity. So if they're planting the seeds of alchemy, cosmetics, and beauty, war, how to make war, and everything, they're basically showing us how to create our own demise. And so I think that's really, we were kind of screwed to begin with as humans when you think about it, because when you read the accounts of Enoch, there were, it wasn't, people think that the conflict with Lucifer or Satan was just all about he wanted to be like God. I think when you start reading these accounts, and even when you start paralleling the reoccurring examples of in the Bible where you have older brother, younger brother dynamic, it's easy to conclude that there was something much deeper going on with Lucifer beyond him wanting to be like his father. It was a couple of things happening, and I think if you kind of parallel it to, like, how many people have like a younger brother or sister who is like about 8 to 12 years younger than them, right? You have this dynamic where you have like this older sibling, right, who doesn't like the existence of a younger sibling. Well, it was like the fallen angels. It wasn't just a fact. It wasn't even just about the rankings. They were looking at God creating humans, and when you think about how He created us versus how He created them, He created us to be more like Him than them, because we could actually create. We could actually procreate. We can actually make sons and newer generations. They were not made to do that. They actually had to come down and take the flesh, take our flesh to do what we were made to do. So there's a lot going on between the spiritual brothers and their sentiments towards the fleshly sons. They hated us, some of them, not all of them, but a third of them absolutely hated us, and a third of them thought that we should be worshiping them versus them, exalting us. Um, so mankind, we had a huge role in God's purpose, and one would argue that our role was more significant than even the angels. They are protectors, yes. Many of them are created to maintain a divine balance, but mankind, we were given the greatest gift that God could give his creations, which is we can procreate, we can create generations. And that's why in Satan's world today, you'll have the abortionists, the eugenicists, or those types of folks, right? They will make people hate that gift or squander that gift, not appreciate that gift of procreation. But mankind survives with procreation. So any effort to stop or halt the procreation of newer generations is just asking for the death of humanity. So, you know, the devil is busy, y'all. The devil is busy. And so it's up to us to just, kind of read these ancient texts and kind of understand how they correlate to our day. These days, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. And I think once you start really digging into the Word of God and those ancient texts and even reading the secular history of things, it's really fascinating. It is really, really fascinating to deep dive into human history. Um, and I encourage everybody to do it. So, anyways, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. Ghetto Planet, thank you so much for joining. Malcolm, I see you. I what did you say? Awar, you said how high are you? Um, I am not high, but I'm high on knowledge, so I don't know, super high, I guess. Anyways, we're let me see, let me move this thing. We were supposed to be organic robots who serve like angels, but that's not what was delivered. We were better and worse than expected. No, that's not what we were supposed to be. I mean, I think that, at the simplest, I think at the simplest terms, I think that we were really supposed to procreate and create more generations of people that worship one God. Like, I really think that humans complicated where we could have been way more thinking that we knew better and listening to, obviously entities that did not have our best interest at mind, because again, humans are doing it even to this day, right? Don't think that these elite circles are empowered by anything but the devil and those fallen angels that they are tapping into through their manifestations, incantations, and divinations. These people, they know what they're doing. You look on YouTube and you see these videos, unlock the keys to your potential. Use these certain steps and these things and whatever. And it's just this big ass hypnosis thing, right? Where you're opening up your mind. And I always tell people, don't let people hypnotize you, right? It is a demonic practice. It opens the mind up to the suggestion of another person. And a lot of times it can even open the mind up to the suggestions of spirits and forces that you don't want in there. A lot of people go crazy because they're practicing these little divinations, manifestations, and they're like, all this weird stuff is happening in my life. You need to purify your life from the devil and stop doing those prayers to the devil, right? Prayer is how you entreat the Most High. Divinations, manifestations, incantations, all of those things are means to tap into energies that you don't want around you or in your mind. I don't care what nobody tells you, those are satanic practices at their core. But yep, to worship and serve, yet not all humans serve and worship God. We were ordered to subdue the earth and its life forms, but the earth isn't subdued. Think about how much undiscovered land, right? We're most people on earth, we're in civilized lands, right? But there's so much earth that we're not even living on, right? They'll have us believe that we have this resource issue when that's a lie, right? The earth is will always produce abundance for humans if we are tilling the earth the right way, right? So, the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. I don't blame you. You said where this world is, you decided not to procreate. I'll take it up with God if given the chance. But it's okay not to procreate. Especially if you're somebody who is on a spiritual journey and you are focused on just being more of a spiritual light. I mean, this is where you get the brothers in the congregations, the ministers and even some of these, what they call monks, these people who marry themselves to their faith. They decide that they're not going to have a conventional life, that they're going to be a person of enlightenment, right? And it is okay for a man to decide to dedicate himself to a ministry as opposed to having a family and getting married. But dedicate yourself to something. Some of you dudes talking about you don't want to have kids, you don't want to do this, and you ain't dedicated to nothing. And even just the dedication to yourself it's nothing. So, I mean, have a purpose, right? It sucks to be a person running around with no purpose. And if you're not a man with a family who's driven by the purpose of taking care of your family, at least be a man driven by the purpose of being enlightening to other people, being a teacher to other people, a mentor to other people. Have a purpose just greater than yourself, is all I'm saying. You said because we're almost a failed experiment. Well, that is for damn sure. Like human beings, no, I wouldn't say that humans are a failed experiment, because I think that when you look at human history and you look at all the evil in the world, there has still been some dynamically good people in the world amongst all these chaotic people. Not as many as we would like them to be at one time, but I still think that there's really good people in the world today. I think that when you read the word, it says, broad and spacious is the road to destruction, and many have found its path, but narrow and cramped is the road to life, and few have found it. And so I think that regardless, you want to be on the narrow and cramped, right? You want to be on the uncomfortable road, right? And just get through that. So, keep your prayers up, and, center yourself on the Most High as much as you can, I would say, and just leave all the rest to the Most High. Just let Him take care of everything, and He will do it. He will do it. I will testify for my Lord all day because He is good. Amen. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.